Hi, I just have a couple concluding remarks about the course. I've really enjoyed having the exchange of ideas with you. I realize I introduced some controversy into the course, but I would imagine you would have expected that in an educational politics course. I also really appreciate the way you've kind of handled the transition from politics to micro politics as we've moved textbooks. You did that very smoothly. I've not had a chance to read all of your Unit 7 contributions yet, but from what I've gathered thus far, you've done a really good job. Just a couple words on your Democracy in Action papers. I realize that some of you attended meetings that were more interesting than others. Some of that is a function of it being summer. Lots of times there are districts who don't even meet in the month of July. They just take a vacation from the board meetings. Teachers are gone for the most part. The public is engaged in other things. So usually summertime brings a little bit more calmness to board meetings, and a lot of you saw board meetings that reflected that. I really appreciated the discussion that came forward from you about our republic form of government. And that's a really important concept to keep in mind as we look at a school board meeting. So many times I have been at board meetings where there was an issue in the community and it brought forward a large gathering. There have been times we've had to move meeting places and move into a gymnasium or an auditorium in the school district to accommodate everyone. And what generally happens is if a person is sitting in there amongst 200 or 300 people, it's only human nature to think, well, gosh, everybody feels this way. Look around, you know, and that's what special topic can bring forward. And that does not necessarily mean that a majority of people in the school district feel the way that those motivated enough to attend that meeting feel. And that's a really hard concept when someone is sitting there in the audience feeling all kinds of support for his or her position. So you do have to harken back to that whole idea that the Board of Education is elected to represent the entire school district. Here's a thought that I learned during the central office part of my career, and I think it really serves us well to remember this. A Board of Education meeting is a meeting of the board held in public. It is not a meeting of the public held in the boardroom. And that's a big distinction. And a lot of people who go to one or two board meetings in their life because there's a topic that was hot to them really don't quite understand that concept, or even if they understand it, the emotions get in the way of it. So some of you were able to see a little bit of that conflict arise, and I was kind of hoping that you would. And depending on what school board meeting you went to, you may have seen very little in that regard. Now, sometimes that does not necessarily mean there's apathy in the school district. It can mean that people are generally very pleased and are not concerned about what's going on. And unfortunately, as we've kind of learned through our study, that feeling that, well, everything is okay kind of settles in as complacency. And that's why we don't get as much public input into critical matters as we need sometimes. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's a tough one. I would recommend to you that you keep those Democracy in Action papers somewhere in your electronic files for your portfolio. I've talked with Dr. Strawn in the past about that. Some of you may know Dr. Strawn. He and I have been friends for a very long time. I worked with him for a while in the Lewis Palmer School District. And he is the one currently overseeing that portfolio process for getting your licensure. And he has recommended to me that that might be one of the artifacts you'd want to put in your portfolio. So hang on to that. The prompts that I chose for that Unit 7 discussion board were very intentional. I'm trying to match the whole social justice theme with raising your awareness about your bottom line values, your own bottom line values. I always ask my aspiring school leader students this question. Project yourself forward as a school principal, as a school assistant principal, or some other position of leadership, and then ask yourself, do your teachers, parents, and students know what your bottom line is? And if they do not, why don't they? Because we certainly should not be keeping those kinds of important things a secret. The Theo Harris book is a nice segue away from the governmental and into the micropolitics. As some have pointed out, it's not a handbook on school leadership. I wish, in some ways, that those of you who are embarking on your principal licensure could all have the benefit of taking all the courses in a certain sequence. I think that would help us all because we would have a common understanding about vocabulary and established concepts and so forth. I realize that that doesn't work because you're from all over the world, for example, right now in this course. And some of you are taking part of your coursework online and part of it on campus. Others are taking all of it online. And you just have busy schedules. And so you kind of have to grab courses when they come available. But one of the downsides to that is that at any given time, you might be expecting a given course to give you everything you need to know about being a school principal. And it's hard for you to see the big picture when you're in one or two courses at a time. The purpose of the educational politics course, in my opinion, is not to give you a prescription for being a great principal. It is to raise your awareness about some of these values, to stir your thinking about why and how decisions get made and how you might be a participant in that in the near future if you're not already, and kind of what to expect as far as some of the cross pressures that exist within the principalship specifically. And then if you go up from there into the central office, they're even more highly pronounced at times. So don't be disappointed if you are early in your coursework and you're finding that, gosh, some of this stuff really doesn't tell me much about how to be a more effective leader. I think you'll find that we have other courses that supplement this one that'll do a better job of that. Now, if I could just go back to that slide before on the bottom line values, and I'll just punch it up again. I always ask my aspiring students that question. And so I would just tell you that for me, toward the end of my career, one of my bottom line values was we are going to collaborate. Those of you who have had me for the instructional leadership course know that I have a high value for true practice of professional learning communities. I think that term has become overused and it's almost lost its meaning. And as I travel around the Pikes Peak region here, I rarely see it used in the way it was intended, quite honestly. But in its purest form, I still think that is the ticket. And so anyone who worked with me during the last several years of my career knew that you had to buy into that in order to be successful in our organization. I had other bottom line values when I was a school principal, mostly related to how we treat kids. And those are the kinds of things, once again, that you want to make sure you come right out and tell everyone. You want to tell them face to face, you want to include it in your newsletters, you want to include it in your memoranda, and mostly you want to walk the talk so that people can see that those are really, truly your bottom line values. You may remember the old thing from instructional leadership, about 3/4 of you are in that class, that I constantly reminded you through the course, do what you say you will do. That's the quickest way and the surest way to earn and keep credibility. And it goes hand in glove with this whole idea about your bottom line values. So for Unit 8, you will have two assignments. One you've known about for some time, but you really probably haven't paid a lot of attention to the detail of that, and that is the personal political platform paper. And the second is the 7 keys analysis paper. When I first inherited this course, students were asked to write about each of those 7 keys in the Thea Harris book. But I've modified that. I've shortened it. I'd rather have you be more focused and a little more detailed. So I've asked you to choose 2 of those keys. Please, please read my instructions carefully on that assignment when you get ready to do it for Unit 8. These 2 assignments will serve as your final for the course, so there will not be an additional final. Once you're done with these 2 assignments, you'll be finished with the assigned work. I'll probably have grades posted by Monday night, August 10th. That's my goal right now. There will also be a place for you to make your own observations or suggestions about the course and my instruction in a little place called Course Evaluation. It's entirely ungraded. It's not required. Some of you in the past have preferred to just send me a little email to give me that kind of feedback. Some of you have written a comment on your last paper to give me that kind of feedback. I want you to know that I take all of those kinds of things seriously. I do try to improve. It's really important to me that what we're doing seems relevant to my students. And so I would appreciate you finding some way to let me know what you liked about the course, what you would have liked to have had more of, maybe what you might have wanted less of, some suggestions you might make about the organization, anything that you think might help me make the course better. I want to wish you good luck in your endeavors. I'm a big champion of people who want to be school leaders. That's the main reason I continue to work in the program. We need great instructional leaders. That is the saving grace, if there's going to be one, for our profession. I truly believe that. It's a good and worthy cause. These are not easy jobs. Anyone who gets into them because the salary looks more attractive than that of a teacher's salary will soon figure out that that was not a good reason to go that route. But those of you who really feel that calling or are really excited about being able to impact even more students than you might be doing currently in a classroom, you can find great rewards in this kind of a career. So with that being said, I will wish you all the best. If you need to get a hold of me in the future, you all have good contact numbers for that, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you. Thank you.